the animation team gets all kinds of crazy when you say, hey, here's an 8-legged animal, go animate it for us. Right. But down the road, I can definitely see that happening. It's one of those things that takes time, so it doesn't take priority over what we really need for the base game right now. But it could definitely happen somewhere.
Right. It's again, as we build this thing, it's never completely finished. We'll be continually adding on it forever, and we'll be listening to what people want at that point. So.
A never-ending story.
But we're definitely going to have some space, whatever you want to call it, monsters. So perhaps there's some alien creatures scurrying around the ceiling. So we're going to kind of try and do that. I mean, we're going to have some places you can land and do some exploring, and maybe some monsters or creatures down there. I'm not saying that's day one, but that's definitely all stuff that we're planning on doing. Given that there will be pets, will animals in the verse also have robust health and damage models? And will there be veterinarian parallels to the somewhat complex medical system planned for Star Citizen? They could take a hit in the leg or the body or whatever, but we're definitely not going to have your space dog takes a hit in battle and now he comes back with a cybernetic leg. At least not at the very beginning, because it's sort of maybe there would be some alien beasts that could attack you and you could defend yourself, or you could go and find them as specimens, or even hunt them, as is suggested here. So long term, this would be definitely something that would be kind of a fun one, and probably not too difficult to do, because if you play Far Cry 4, that's a whole game mechanic in there, and it's again Far Cry 3, Far Cry 4. They're all essentially on the Juno engine, which came from the Cry engine. So.
We want to have, trees that look like Crysis. We want to have, animals and things like that within them. Absolutely, we want them to be at that exact same fidelity. And do I think it's possible? Absolutely.
I think so too.
With most of the stuff that we've seen in the last little while, absolutely. Yeah, and the space whales, right? We talked a little bit earlier in a different question about fauna. Anyways, so space whales, megafauna. I think we're going to have to support something like this, right? Whether it's whales or big things on the ground, walking around. Yeah, sure, space whales. Let's do it. You heard it here.
Do we know if CR was joking about the desert worm? Worm was not a joke. I just don't want to be selling something that we might not have in the game. Sure. We aren't selling something that won't be in the game. We are going to have creatures on our planets. We're going to have xenomorphs on Rex, dangerous alien creatures on planets, and so on. Probably even a space whale leviathan.
Good idea. That's the first time it's ever done that.
The other thing that we're really focusing on now, which we've had a little bit of a sneak peek about, is creatures. So in the future, we're going to be doing all these awesome characters, creatures, worms, as you've seen, insects, alien life forms that are going to fill out these awesome worlds. And with a strong character pipeline in place, any of this is possible.
Is this a joke, or will there be space whales in game sometime?
We are exploring the idea. It is not a confirmed thing. The lore team asked us to play around with it. It's a thing that we have talked about for some time.
And as I said, one of the things we're working on is fauna. So so these are the Oni, the xiphopod Oni crabs. So they're little scavengers on Hurston, and there's quite a few other things that we're going to have on Hurston. We'll do it, but you'll have them running around and a bunch of other ones. But there you go. There's Lawville. There's Hurston. We got quite a few other creatures in the pipeline, right, Josh? Yeah, it's going to be good.
This question has come up a lot today. Livestock. We're going to have livestock?
Well, we've got farming planned.
Yeah.
I mean, that's later down the line, but we've talked about farming before. I don't know whether or not...
There have been talk about fauna, but that is certainly not like in the game or anything. Like we showed the thing, for instance, at CitizenCon with little creatures flying around. So it's something that we're experimenting with in like very early ways, but it's not, there's not code being written specifically for that right now.
We really want to push fauna, so there could be dangerous wildlife there, or creatures you could hunt, or would attack you.
Each fauna would have kind of its own 24-hour schedule. There's usables that it can go and round and do, so whether that be drinking water or whatever it drinks or eats, and then what can it go? Does it go scratch up against a tree or something like that to mark its territory? Those types of things.
Will there be fauna in the bodies of water?
Bodies of water, you would assume further down the line, they would absolutely need to have something in order to kind of match the quality of immersion that we've put with everything else.
Well, Chris took questions from the crowd, and the first question was, "Can we fish in Star Citizen?" It was one of the very first backer questions ever posed to Chris live. So there's definitely some.
My guess is that he probably said yes.
Yeah, as he is wont to do.
Fauna and an ecosystem and resources you can do. So we're starting to lay all that stuff in. That's all in our minds. So yeah, I mean, look, as a player, you should be able to just hang out on one of the worlds and do that for ever if you wanted to.
There's different spiny crustaceans. There's this one creature that the planet is kind of known for. That's colloquially called the flopping pancake. Which is kind of named because it's this gelatinous disc thing, and it clings to the walls of caverns, and how it moves around is a gentle kind of peeling and flopping over, and sticks back on and then flops again. So it's kind of fun.
Now I want to talk about some future things that we're going to start looking into, which is pretty exciting. So creatures, that's a big one. We kind of played around with a sandworm, cool. We played around with a xiphopod, cool. But now we have Hurston. We have savanna biomes. We need to get some life into them. So that'll be a really fun thing to work on.
Obviously, longer term, we're going to have fauna, animals, creatures.
Yep.
So there'll be natural wildlife depending on the place.
We want our characters to be actually living in our planets, right? Or living in the moons, to actually have a life in the game. And for us to make them feel genuine, we have to build a culture for every single one of them, right?
When I'm playing a game, I want to get lost in the world. That's sort of the suspension of disbelief, which people talk about, say, in films.
Well, what are we thinking is our first non-humanoid creature we're going to see in Star Citizen?
So we're going to be working on the space cow, just to work out the new rig, and then from there we'll be the next big one would be the space whale that we'll look into.
Because we do not have a pipeline for making creatures. We haven't made creatures yet. So we have to figure out what this new pipeline is and what we can take from the other pipelines that we've built and what needs to be created bespoke.
But we're at the beginnings of something brand new, and that's the creation of creatures. We started exploring things like the space cows and the space whales. And while those are still going to happen, we are now focused on something that hopefully players and developers alike get a little more excited about, and that would be predator creatures. The way you might encounter this is the large queen can actually hunker down and sort of disguise herself as a group of rocks, where you might end up walking right up on one and not even know it's there until it actually reveals itself. We're already working on creating a pipeline to make these things a reality in game. What that means is AI, design, animation, and characters will all come together to bring life to these things.
With very early. I think the guys that are working on the actual creature lore and the creature art, concept art, are ahead of us, but that is generally a good place to be.
Implementing the boreal stalker creature into the game. Created by microtech genetic engineers to fill the apex predator niche within their planet's ecosystem, the boreal stalker roams its tundras searching for prey.
Will we see in-game whales flying around Orison?
Not for 3.14. Basically, character has been working on them, but basically the downstream teams like AI, animation, design still need time to do what they need to do in order to make them work properly.
A journey worth making. All made possible thanks to the most important part of Crusader Industries, our incredible family of workers.
As you go out of the elevator, then the player will pass through and see this absolutely gorgeous wind sculpture there, and seeing those big whale passing through the clouds in front of you as you're in those medical bed feels special. It feels different.
And lastly, because it's been too long since I previously mentioned space whales, the character team has been exploring these micro concepts, exploring what gameplay might look like for players when the mighty storm walls make their way to the clouds across Crusader. So what did we learn this week? That new career opportunities are coming for those who want to work space with a lot of fresh air and squishy whale blubber under their feet. Does the creation of an imprint also work with animals? Have you thought about animals yet? Somebody's going to get a space cow and get really attached to a space cow and want to save their space cow.
We can specify a small herbivore, for example, and in the snow, this might spawn some sort of Arctic rabbit, and in the jungle, this might spawn something completely different.
Creature rigging pipeline. Development and creation of the internal rigging pipeline.
Where the environment is filled with fauna and animals that can actually move and, use information of the environment, like feed out of the environment, or, drink water from a river. And this will really be a game changer because it will really make players experience a world that is alive and not just an environment that they need to explore.
Standing together, united in purpose.
It's really exciting to see our kind of fauna pipeline starting to kick in and coming in with stuff like the stone book.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
Almost got it.
Well, I fixed it. The mole should run fine now. I do have some bad news, though. You got crabs.
Oh my god.
Go! Look, the ketchup is leaving as well. He's on his way.
This is ridiculous. I spent $3,000 in this game and look what I'm doing!
It's a sandbox.
It needs to be a t-shirt.
You can have some fun.
For God's sake. Oh, the Finley! Who's putting the Finley in front of me?